Hello. Alright. Considering we know we're getting weapon with customizable gems and abilities in the Ashlands, I want to talk about my favorite game to ever implement such a similar system, and how they did it ever so excellently. So this game, it's actually two games, Champions of Norrath, Champions Return to Arms, both PS2 games. Love them. Classics. Put so many hours into them, definitely several thousand. Just so good. Really taught me a lot about video game analysis and becoming the best, because I'm confident enough that I can make guides for them. I don't think the GameFAQs guides are particularly good strategy-wise, and if they ever made a PC port on Steam, I would be making a ton of guide videos for you guys and content. It would be lovely. I would love to do it. But I want to show you the system that they have here. Thank you, Game Banshee, for all of this information compiled here. I don't know how long it's been compiled here for, but it's been sitting here for years and years. So I'll just go over the best ones here and how that they could be implemented into Valheim. Short bone chip, number one, it's cold damage. It works similarly to Valheim already in that it slows enemies down. Regular mobs can get shattered too after a certain point, and the slowdown effect does stack, which is really cool. Now, infusing it onto armor for cold resistance would be really cool and good in Valheim. In Valheim you have the difference between cold resistance and cold very resistance, so there could be like a lower quality gem and then a higher quality gem, which would be really cool. You see here there are 4 different variants of the bone chips here. There could be 2 different variants in Valheim for like a frost gem. That would be really cool. Now, this is really nice, but of course in Valheim the frost doesn't work on bosses like it does in Champions, and I don't think it'll shatter enemies like it does in Champions as well. So still, that's one gem that could be really good that we know that we don't really have. We have poison, lightning, fire right now, and cold would also be really cool. Let's keep going now. See, armor bonus. I don't think armor bonus would be particularly good. It wasn't particularly good in Champions and Champions Return to Arms, because if you put it on armor, it doesn't do anything. It does nothing. It's so goofy. Like, why? Why can't you put it on armor and stack armor bonus? It's so silly. So yeah, you just put like an armor buffing thing on a weapon. No, I'm not gonna do that. I'm gonna put on something that helps me kick even more ass, like these fire beetle eyes. Oh yes, these things are really cool. They have additional fire damage, but fire works differently in Champions than it does in Valheim. Oh yes, it has a tick over time, which Valheim does as well, but in that tick, there is almost certainly going to be a flinch on an enemy. And that flinch on an enemy, or maybe a boss, means that you have more opportunity to smack the enemy. And if you have fire on your weapon, that means there's more opportunity for ticks to happen. Now, it's not guaranteed, but you're still dealing beautifully extra damage, which is super nice. And, well, as long as you have a baseline form of something good, anything extra that you are able to look out for and you're able to just squeeze out potential stagger lock based off of your skill, then that becomes skill-inducing RNG rather than skill-reducing RNG. You're not punished for the RNG, you're rewarded by capitalizing off of the RNG with your skill. That is good design right there. And now, of course, being able to put resistances on armor or even shields, that would be sick. I would love that. That's so good in Valheim. I mean, again, two different qualities in Valheim would be fire resistance and then fire very resistance. Being able to customize your weapons and armor like this would be so cool. Now let's keep going on. Mana regen. Really exceptional on shields and armor in Champions Return to Arms. You have all of these characters that have like really low level, low mana costing spells that just put immense crowd control on the enemies, and you can keep them at a low level and just have stacking mana regen from a variety of sources and just dominate. Does that remind you of something? Might remind you of the Staff of Frost in Valheim. You can start to get some crowd control at a low Eider cost in Valheim, and then you can switch to your weapon and destroy the enemy like so. And so your Eider regen's good, just like that. Of course, Eider regen's good for all of your spells, just like mana regen's good for all of your spells in Champions of Norrath. So if you have an Eider gem, or if you're able to customize gear with mana regen or iter regen in Valheim, that would be really, really cool. And of course you can customize that along many tiers, although it would probably just be the same thing that we got for the current iter weave set, which would be like a 20% and then a 40%. It again keeps up with the same theme of, hey, you have a weaker version and then a stronger version, so just like the gems that are like resistant and then very resistant, you could have gems that would be some mana regen or iter regen in this case, and then even more iter regen, 20%, 40%. Let's keep going now. Disease resistance isn't really relevant as much. There's no disease in Valheim, so yeah. Poison Cloud. This is cool. So we have like a chance to proc basically like an ooze bomb type effect, except poison applies with a DOT that stacks the same way that fire does in the Champions Return to Arms and Champions of Norrath. Now Valheim, it doesn't stack like that. Tick to tick, it resets. Oh, it's not very good at all. It just resets, resets, resets. It doesn't stack. It will stack instance to instance for one attack. So if you have the Draugr with poison arrows, the two sources of poison damage on that one attack will combine into a large tick. But if you keep spamming poison arrows, you're going to lose out on so much DOT because the ticks will keep replacing themselves arrow to arrow. I don't know why they don't stack like that in Valheim. It's very goofy. But just like fire and Champions, it has that stunning effect. For a split second, it can cause a flinch in an enemy, in which case you can dominate them. Of course, having poison function like that in Valheim, I don't know. I think it ought to function a little differently. There are quite a bit of elements that have this same exact property in Champions, and while it's very satisfying, it is ultimately just like a different shade of fire. So it's a lot of neuron activation, and it ought to function a little bit more differently. Now, disease in Champions of Norrath, Champions Return to Arms, is very limited. See it here? You can only get it in the first game, and you can port these mummy tongues to the second game, but very, very difficult, and honestly they should have just been available in the second game. Disease is just like your poison, just like your fire, except it's sort of an elongated effect, and it can spread while the effect is relatively active from mob to mob, from mob to boss. And so that's really good. It's just really nice crowd control. It's like the best out of the DOT crowd control elements in Champions. And so I think one of our elements in Valheim that are DOT ought to have this sort of effect. Maybe the tick can be lesser, or the DOT could be just a shorter time to make up for the spreading effect. But it would really set apart one of the elements from the others. And I think that would be really, really cool to have. It's also just really cool to see just like large crowds of enemies light up with the disease effect and then just go in and shred them all. It's so much fun. Now let's talk about health regen. Health regen would be really cool in Valheim to put on like some armor and stuff, just to be Mr. Tanky, super tanky. There are ways to like aggro manipulate in certain ways. You can't pull mobs specifically to you if you're playing co-op, which kind of sucks, but it's fine. Members of the party can sort of have pocket options or cool little swaps to deal with enemies that are in their face all of a sudden, like at gear and such. It's fine. Even so, health regen on certain characters would be extremely welcome in Valheim. That would be pretty cool. And so, boom, there's another gem. Again, it could be two-tiered, just like everything else. Could be the weaker version and then the stronger version. That would be very cool. Health bonus, no. No, just no. The health and mana bonuses in Champions are bugged. They don't really work. I assume if they PC port it, they would fix it, but who knows? PC ports lately haven't been the best. So, hey, it would be an option. I don't think they would add it because it would basically just be like, hey, here's a food, that you have on you all of the time. I don't think they'll ever add that. Same thing with like iter bonus. I don't know if you'll have like a flat iter thing. They could. I mean, they have mana bonus. It's not very good because the int bonus in champions, it affects your mana regen and your total mana. Both of those things get increased. So int bonus, really good on armor, really good on shields. Especially shields, because in that game, it applies even if you have like your bow out or something, which is absurd. And then same with the mana regen, like you get your bonuses even when you have a bow out. It's bugged like that, but it's just makes it exceptionally good. Okay, lightning damage is way better in Valheim than it is in Champions, so lightning damage here, not very good. It's just like colorful damage in Champions. In Valheim, it actually adds up to staggering, so it has some crowd control effects. And of course there's the 1.5 times wet effect, so that there's elemental, environmental interaction, which is great. You know, that's something Valheim has elementally over Champions, in the environmental interaction and such. Let's keep moving. There's the mana bonus that I was talking about. Poison damage, I just said earlier, this poison damage is a little bit more upfront, but it's also DOT. And yeah, you can just instantly get that tick going, unlike the poison cloud. It's just green fire, basically. Yeah. I mean, it would be cool having the poison resistance in 2 tiers and poison damage in 2 tiers. We're gonna get it. We're gonna get poison, but poison in Valheim, no, it's not very good right now, and I think it should apply more like disease in Champions Return to Arms. I think that's what poison should be. I think that would be very cool. Last thing here is critical hit. I don't think critical hit would apply very well into Valheim per se. It's much better in Champions because you can put it on an archer and just shred everything. You know, stack your own critical hit spell on with a bow that has critical hit bonus and just multi-shot, shred everything from distance. Very strong, very neuron activating, very Diablo-esque type of shredding. Wouldn't be as relevant. It would have to be changed to increased staggering or something. I think a 2-tiered increased staggering, or maybe even stagger resistance, if it was applied to armor or shields, that would be really cool. And that would work exceptionally well. So, let's review. I think elements should change a little bit. Specifically, poison. Poison should have a disease effect like Champions, and it should have the flinching effect that fire does. I think fire works okay, although fire, if it had, if poison was made to stack, fire would be like green poison, and so you would have to, no, fire would be like red poison, so you would have to change it. So I think Valheim fire should have that chance of flinching, just like Champions. Lightning is good as it is, frost is good as it is, poison should be like a disease, but with a lesser tick, so that it's more balanced. And that way all of the elements are good. Spirit, it's icing on the cake. You look at the damage calculations, I think there should be spirit gems, that would be sick. But, looking at the damage calculations on like a silver sword has 93 slash. That's the standard amount of slash that any other weapon would have. Frostner, maxed out, just like that silver sword, has a total of 93 damage non-spirit. That's the same as, say, your Fang Spear, which has 93 pierce. And it matches tier to tier because your options, one-handed, classic one-handed sword, mace, and spear, for the Iron Age, they were all 73, and then the Bronze Age was 53. And so you see the trend. 53, 73, 93, except those spirit options, the sword and the Frostner, I mean even the knife, it's just extra damage. That's situationally nice. Icing on the cake. It's icing on the cake. You already have so much available. So if there were spirit gems, I don't think spirit needs to be changed at all. It's just icing on the cake and very situational things. I don't think people would be terribly inclined to put spirit damage over other damage types. However, we're going into the Ashlands and there are going to be a lot of undead enemies. So spirit damage is most likely going to make a giant comeback. And I think spirit gems would work very well. Very, very curious. Also, I don't think Us as Vikings take spirit damage? No, I don't think we do. Because friendly fire. Yeah, no, we don't take spirit damage. Okay. Thank you for watching. I hope you've enjoyed this. I went over all the things, the elements. I think we could have quite a bit of gems in addition to these added in. Frost gem, spirit gem, stagger modifier, and resistances. I think these gems could also be applied for just resistances as well on armor and shields. There could be passive Eider regen, and maybe even like Poison Cloud. Poison up front. Be very, very cool. Alright, thank you for watching. I'll see you guys some other time. Bye!